Facebook Nation. How's it going? Hope you guys have been well. Thank you for tuning in. And for those that are new to the community, the International Connect Call is a platform for you to inspire each other through leadership, collaboration, and creativity. Our goal is to create a community where anyone can use their collective power to amplify their work in the world. Each one of us has been given a great gift. Talents of different degrees and varying of amounts, they should not be withheld, contained, or set aside. They are to be used not only for our own betterment, but for the betterment of others. So we support each other by connecting bi-weekly with an open mind and an open heart, each speaker giving their God-given gifts. So do you have the courage to use your voice? We are now booking for 2025. We meet the first Thursday of the month, sharing their work in the world, and the third Saturday is sharing Jesus's work in the world. So if you have the courage to share, to testify the goodness of the Lord, we want to hear from you. So we are just ready to just launch the 2025 year into a wonderful year. So excited to have our guest speaker today. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of a background of her. And so today we have Martie M. Smith. She's been recognized, award-winning, and a multiple bestseller. She embodies the power of resilience and personal transformation. As a U.S. Air Force veteran, a mechanic, a photographer, and a carpenter, she has overcome monumental challenges that propelled her to become a resilience ambassador. In her book, Resilience Nourishes the Soul, she chronicles her journey marked by surgeries, emotional challenges, and unwavering faith, inspiring others to strengthen their resolve and find hope amid adversity. As a wellness coach, Martie is dedicated to empowering women by integrating body, mind, and spirit, promoting holistic well-being that fosters a fulfilling life. Throughout her career, she has mentored individuals from diverse backgrounds, sharing strategies for overcoming obstacles through workshops and speaking engagements. Among her most notable accolades is being named Top Resilience Ambassador 2025 by the International Association of Top Professionals, a prestigious honor that underscores her commitment to resilience and inspiration. Additionally, Martie M. Smith has recognized as a triple bestseller 2025 for her works Creative Chaos Warrior, 100 Voices of Women, and Expertas Sin Fronteras. Her influence extends further as she was featured in the Brain Magazine Top 500 for 2025, solidifying her leadership and motivation and personal growth. With over 40 years of marriage, Martie lives in North Carolina, demonstrating the daily power of perseverance, faith, and hope. Her mission is clear: to sow seeds of resilience and inspire every heart to transform adversity into opportunities for growth. Explore her legacy and discover how her example can motivate you to reach your full potential. Wow, Martie, I'm just so excited to have you here on the International Connect Call. And for those of you that are watching, tune in on Zoom. You can come with us. I will be sharing the link below here shortly. Martie, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Pearl. It's always an honor. It's always a pleasure to share the little gold nuggets that I discovered along the way after 6 decades of experience. I did not know when I was called 7 years old, a mistake by my mom, that I would evolve into what I've become. But that was like the very seed now that I see after getting past the trauma, the drama, and all the mess that we put ourselves into and the way we respond. I realize now that that was the very seed that planted that I'm not giving up. I'm going to persevere. I'm going to find my way. I'm going to prove, maybe not to the world, maybe not to my parents, but to me, that I'm worth something, that God made me a miracle, and that I have the talents, the treasures, and everything that I need to have a mission and a passion and a purpose. Now, it all sounds so smoothly put together, but try to drag 60 years of life into it. I didn't see it that way when I was coming through it. But the reason why I want to share this is because I want to leave a legacy. I wasn't able to have my own children, but I also see how important it is to um, just be some type of formation for children around you, because we're affecting our future, whether they belong to us or not, is irregardless of everything that we need to contribute to society. If that child listens to someone that acknowledges their existence, that can make the big difference in their confidence level. That can make them pursue things that they didn't even know they had because someone believed in them. And if they have that one person believe in themselves and someone else shows up later along, they start believing in themselves as well. Woo, I've been through 27 surgeries. I was an Air Force veteran. I got my back injured there, so I wasn't able to continue that career. Otherwise, I would have stayed a pilot in flying A-10s. I loved airplanes. I even got to fly a simulator. It wasn't a legit permission, but I A-10 and I pulled G's and pulled out the cabin pressurization, liquid oxygen, everything that I used to work in. It was very non-traditional for a woman to be in that line of fire, but I was daring, I was bold, and that's what I've discovered now, that because I wanted to get out of that comfort zone that wasn't existent. I was always looking for a comfort zone in a way, but it was the very thing that was pulling me to keep going, to keep treading water, and no matter what happened, I would find a way. I signed the Air Force contract without my parents' permission. So that was the first rebellious thing I did in my lifetime. And why did I do it? Because I wasn't the favorite. I wasn't, I was kind of like the servant, and I had to take care of my chores and duties. I wasn't allowed to have any extracurricular activities. I wanted to be a Girl Scout. I wanted a volleyball team. I always wanted to do something, but every time they asked for permission, it's like, ugh. And the one time the recruiter showed up at the high school, I was window shopping for the uniform. All right, I like the Marine Corps. I'm going to join the Marine Corps. And then I saw what represented the Marine Corps, and I was like, never mind. I'll go Air Force. And I said, I like flying. I've moved several times in my lifetime, 49 to be exact. And all those were while I was growing up. After I grew up, I stayed put a lot longer. I think the longest I've ever stayed put was 18 years, but I turned I'm 65 and a half, so you I say I'm international. I was born in Colombia, South America. I learned English before I did Spanish, which was like an insult to my own family name. How could you not know your native tongue? Well, you put me in the United States at 5 years old. When in Rome, do as the Romans do, and I adjusted. So in looking back to all the things I had done, I seen that I was already adapting wherever I went, which was cool, but I didn't acknowledge it as being resilience. Okay. Fast forward, I got hurt with my bad back, but I also got my knee injured and re-injured. And the next thing I know, they're checking me for a spine stimulator because my muscles atrophied. And it was like I ended up in a wheelchair. I had tremors and all kinds I was totally debilitated, but I see now that that debilitation was caused by my depression. And I was severely depressed with psychiatric 14 uh narcotics, and it was like, whoa, I'm not getting anywhere with this. What's going to happen? So pandemic hit, and I felt like deja vu, and I said, not now, not now, not again. I'm going to get out of everything that muck that I put myself into, and I started learning. Learning has always been my saving grace, but I started learning like empowerment courses, and I didn't know that there was such a thing as limiting beliefs. I was like, imagine that. I put all that in my head all this time. I've been blaming the world. I knew how to point every finger at everything except what assumed responsibility did I have? None. And so now I see why I couldn't dream, why I didn't dare to discover new ways of doing things or finding solutions. I was always focused on bad things that were happening, and I kept dragging all that emotional luggage and all that mess in me. But I said, pandemic no more. I decided to write a book. Joined a free book camp. I'm like, okay, I'm tired of looking at the news. I even had my brother pass away and my father-in-law during COVID. So I'm just like, no, no, no more of this dread and I'm gonna die. It's the end of the world. No, no. There's something in you that you need to get out, figure out whatever you do. And I heard the voice of God say, all right, you can write a horror story. Yes, you've been through hell. But what is that contributing to the way the world is now? How is that gonna help anything in your life? And then that's when the shift hit and it says, okay, I got to count all my blessings. I made it through here. I know two languages. I know three because I studied French in high school. I can read it. I can understand it. Maybe I can't speak the dialect, but it doesn't matter. It's like, wow, God gave me a brain. He gave me the ability to adapt quickly to all these things. I survived 27 surgeries. I survived a wheelchair. I've been married 42 years. I have done a lot. Get out of that muck and start looking at yourself as something worthy. And when I did that, it's like, okay, I lost 70 pounds, 70 inches. That made it even better for confidence. So it was like, change my mind, change my body. And now what was left? My soul. When I got out of the wheelchair, I did have a conversion in my faith. However, it was like I was bumping it here and there, but not really seeing the full picture. When I got out of the wheelchair, I said, God, wherever you want me, however you want me, I'm yours. And that was in 1995. After it took me till 2019 to figure out, oh, okay, that's what that meant. So now I'm really focused. I'm leaving that legacy for the future, leaving the place better than I found it in one way, shape, or form with my little grain of salt. But the whole thing is, if I could survive all this and I could surpass and I overcome all these things with as much hell as I've been through, why can't I teach kids how to get past the little incidents in life that throw us in a muck because we don't know how to handle it? So the sooner I teach kids to do resilience, the more I feel like my legacy is getting built. And this year, I said I had done a New Year's resolution that I was going to write a children's book. I wrote the children's book and now it's going to become a series. And that was like, boom, when you set your mind to it, you take action. You don't say one day I'm going, maybe next year, maybe Monday that never comes, because those Mondays never come. So it's like, okay, fine. And my first book was published in 2022 for Resilience Nourishes the Soul. And that was like the recap of all my blessings. I was counting my blessings and acknowledged that God had put all these angels along my path to help me see things in myself that I didn't believe I could see in me. And sometimes I would look at them like they're crazy. What are they talking about? I can't do that. I don't want to. Why? Because I had that limiting belief that I wasn't worthy, that I wasn't valued. And no, everything's changed since. I'm happy to say that I am the most joyful I've ever been, day in, day out. I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and at night I'm like, thank you, God, for giving me another chance to do something that I love to do and get paid for it. And that's why, if people got to taste a little bit of what I'm feeling, I think the world would be different. I think our families would be tighter. I think we'd have our priorities set. I think we'd take a look at ourselves and acknowledge the responsibility of how we accept and reject things that are around us, and don't let it affect our mission. Then we will be different. Then we will be tighter. We will have peace. We will have thriving. We will be a promise for the future. So that's enough of that. But that's me.
Oh, I love that, and it's just you're a reflection of it doesn't matter how old you are, right? Like you can do it as long as you make that decision. Um, but what people, I guess maybe those that are in hardship right now might not see that. They can't see the future of what God's promises that he has for us because they're just so dark. And I love how daring and bold you are because, that's what it takes. Things aren't going to get done if we're sitting on our hands, and
No.
being rebellious, that's what I wrote, being rebellious, I'm a thrill seeker. So, that's excitement for me. There's times where we are supposed to break the rules, right? We go against the grain. And when you mentioned you moved 49 times, what comes to me is that you could choose who you wanted to be wherever, like you could be whoever you wanted to be at each time, right? So were you the same person every time you moved, or were you
Well,
able
this is
to?
the wild part is I would have never dared to meet you. I would have never dared to be caught dead in front of a camera, in front of a little local thing, let alone worldwide. Okay. God wanted me to get out of that. What the heck is wrong with you? Go tell the world. Go shout it from the rooftops how wonderful it is to overcome all the crap that you've put yourself into. Yes, we can't control accidents when they happen, but we can control prior to paying attention to what's around us. When we're really focused on the present, the gift that God gives us, and not worry about carrying all that luggage that we can't handle because we only have two hands and one brain, we can't drag all that in front of us and see anything good. So, like a photographer, you switch the perspective, you go around, you look at the angle and find the good shot. And the good shot, it started showing me with practice, a lot of practice. And I'm not saying I have it down pat. I'm just having it a little more fluent now to get that mechanism to say, okay, wait, wait, whoa, whoa, whoa. Take a big picture look. What can you control? What can you not? And what doesn't matter? Wait, what has nothing to do with you? Why do you want to add to something that you can't affect in one way, shape, or form? Don't let it affect you. And if we had that attitude, we would be more focused. We would dream bigger. We would dare to do things that we're not capable of doing. And if we surround ourselves with that non-toxic environment of people that pull out all these gifts and all these talents around you, that's when we see the difference.
Yeah, it's like we're always a student, right? Like, we don't, I always say that we only have access to the information that we have right now. Like tomorrow,
Right.
we're gonna have access to new information. And so at what point did you realize that those were just all limiting beliefs?
Well, during the pandemic, it's like, oh, I didn't see it. And the very thing I think that this is important for anyone. If you don't do anything else, if you don't find help, a mentor, therapy, or whatever, do something that if you don't believe in yourself, it's going to make you think. And that is write 10 adjectives describing yourself in the utmost best way you can. When they made me do that, I was like, Mm, okay. No, I'm not seeing it. I'm not feeling it. I'm not. But that in and of itself is what was blocking me. I didn't believe anything was good about me. How could I not? I was still alive. I was still talking. I still had, even though I'd been in a wheelchair, I still had all my limbs. And I learned to be more empathetic and more compassionate with people that are disabled. Because you see the people with no limbs going out there and doing marathons and you're like, I have nothing to complain. I have nothing. And another thing is you don't take everything that we're automatic. We get up in the morning, we don't think about having to have our feet ask permission to move. My muscle condition was so bad that my brain would think one way and I'd have to literally talk to my leg and say, don't fail me now. Don't fail me now. And that is a scary thing to go through but it's also showing me that no matter how bad it gets, there's a way around it. And you just have to believe that and have faith. You have whatever faith you have to increase it in every every day because you know that things they're not easy right now. Yeah, I don't I never expected anything that's happening right now, but that doesn't mean that it's not teaching us. It's teaching us a whole bunch of stuff, and it's making us wake up and see the reality of who we are, what's important, our priorities.
And so it's an action, right? We have to step into that calling that comes with the responsibility,
Mm.
right? And so what would you share for those that maybe they're not sure which actions to take yet, but how important that the responsibility that comes with saying yes?
Well, the first thing that we all have to do, whether we do anything with it or not, and that's the hardest part. I think that is the look in the mirror, introspect. See what is it that you see in you? What is it to be honest with yourself? Because that's another thing is like most people tell us, or at least when I was growing up, most people tell us what we should do, what we could do, what we ought to do. No, no, no. What do you want to do? What makes you get up in the morning and you don't care if they pay you or not? What makes you thrive? What makes you want to discover even more things? Because what happened to me is I wrote the book and I thought, okay, I'll put it in Amazon and then I'm done. I did the checklist, but then it was like, no, Marty, this is becoming a business. I won an award. December 2022 was published, January 2023, already the first award. 6 months later, they call me, you've been nominated for Award of Woman of Hearts. And I'm like, oh, that looks good on the resume. I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Okay, whatever. It still hasn't registered in me that I'm doing something greater than I realize, and that God is giving me the ability to open up to an avenue I've never experienced. I'm on my 10th book. I won awards. I won that award in England. I went to pick it up. And then when I came back to North Carolina, I had the Spanish people, the community, it was Latinos Sin Fronteras said, your inspiration 2023. And I went, okay, no, no, see, now this is getting more fun. And the more joy that it would give me, the more I started getting creative. And I'm on my 10th book. Plus, I just published a children's book. So to me, there some are anthologies, some are solo books, but it doesn't matter. It's when you tell your story and you tie it to the rest of humanity, you feel like you're contributing something and nobody can take it from you, nobody could steal it, and yet nobody could pay you enough money to feel that satisfaction of personal, achievement. But I'm not the only one that could do that. Just because I have all these accolades that I can't, my husband says you need a trophy room. And I'm like, for what? To dust more stuff. See, I appreciate the award and the recognition, but I don't see that as my final thing. My final thing is to get my word out to as many people across the globe before I'm gone. And not that will make me feel like I've done something.
Absolutely. Rosemary is saying, wow, 10 books. That is amazing. Rosemary is coming in from Venezuela. So, yo hablo poquito español, pero necesito practicar.
Sí.
Y,
Yo viví en Maracaibo, Venezuela. I lived there in Maracaibo, Venezuela.
wow,
And it was the best, God, it was the best beaches in the whole wide world to me. And I can't believe that it's gotten to where it's gotten, but at the same time, I'm so grateful I went because I really enjoyed meeting the Venezuelan culture. I did. I enjoyed it.
amazing. I would like for you to touch a little bit on, I love your faith, right? And how was hearing, was it the voice of God? Was that something that's always been there, or was it just like clear? It's clear to you at
No,
this point. Um
I
and,
think I I witnessed during the when I was in the wheelchair, I witnessed the movie The Passion by Mel Gibson. It stirred something in me that I had never really acknowledged, like, wow, God did all that for me. What am I wanting from life? It's kind of like it put it in a little perspective, but at the same time, I became a catechist, a Sunday school teacher for 35 years. So I know it triggered something in me. And I think that's where I said, I want to teach the kids what I didn't pick up when I was younger, so that they can have the feeling that I have now after the fact of discovering that God had been there all along. He had never abandoned me. He didn't curse me. He didn't throw all these things at me. He was teaching me lessons. He was teaching me opportunities to be strong, to be resilient, to be the force that nothing gives up, because we are, going to thrive if we follow his directives of giving us everything he gives us, and not ignore the fact that we can be blessed, or that we and be a blessing to others. So to me, that was like the first initial part, but when it really hit me was during the pandemic. I felt like God opened up windows, lined out a path for me. He says, "You going down this road." And I'm telling you, I have not planned half of what has happened to me. But when they say that if you believe it, you will achieve it. And there was people coming at me, and I was like, "Who are you? What do you want?" Always mistrusting, because that's how I grew up. But now it's like, no, God plants these angels along the way to make you see in you what you're worth, what you can help to do for the world.
I love that, right? Because we are created to connect with our creator, and in the same time we are connected for community, because we can't
That's it.
do this life alone. And even as much as we don't want to follow something, God will pursue it to his completion, right? So even if you didn't want it, it was gonna happen anyway, you know.
Oh yeah, he knows what he's doing. He's like, he takes us, okay, he puts us in a situation. All right, you didn't quite get it. Well, I'm gonna have to add a little more to, so that you start seeing and realizing it. And I see now where he definitely has a sense of humor with me, because I was dodging and dancing all around everything he was showing me, and now I see where I couldn't see what was blocking me, what was keeping me from doing more before. But that's why I want these kids to run this obstacle course when they're little, and they're, oh no, okay, no, we can jump over here, we can do it here, this way, that way. And I love kids because that innocence, that purity of heart, that, I mean, you see them in the parking lot, or wherever you see them, and they're playing, and nobody's watching, adults aren't watching them. They can hurt themselves, they could do, and they all lift each other up, and then they could fight for a second, and next thing they're forgiving. So they're very, very fast at making up what we as adults drag everything in the kitchen sink with us. Oh no, that person did me wrong. I can't. No, I don't. Not me. And we get arrogant, and our ego wants to take over and protect and say everything against. That's only making us miserable, because we're not gaining anything from it.
Absolutely. Because he says, you have to be childlike, not childish, but childlike,
That's it.
to be like children. Um, and for those that maybe that are struggling or far from God, they feel like they're far from God. There's a saying that goes like, if you've never walked away, there's to be no reason for you to come back to him. And so we've all
Right.
walked away at some time in our life. And but once you hold on to him, right? And sometimes while we might seem far from him, without realizing we're holding on to the hem of his garment, right? He is not far, but we cannot be drawn to God. We don't draw God to us. God draws us to him. And so maybe you can share a little bit of what that grain of salt means to you.
That grain of salt is definitely blending flavor of you. of the unique you with the rest of humanity. We are not an island. We weren't born here to go do our own thing and die. That's not how it works. And we can avoid and dodge and be a loner. You're not going to find joy. You're not going to find anything that is definitely available when you form community, when you form a family, when you form, and that's another thing. God gave us a family, yes, blood and everything else, but sometimes when you don't get that loving family, he puts in those friends. He puts in the substitutions of something similar so that you don't miss out on that feeling that you are supported, that you have someone that can, be your back and watch out for you and all that. So it's just that little grain of salt grows to be quite the ingredient for the rest of the world as well as them with you. So that's what we have to accept, that we flavor the world according to what we are.
So like scripture says, right? So you don't put a lamp under the bed, right? So you bring the lamp so on the hilltop so that you can shine bright. Um and so how would you share with those that stepping into your light, right? I'm not too sure if that's something you struggle with now, but it's or something that you can edify on what it really does for other people whenever we can be the light for others.
But that stepping into the light to me is discovering truth, the truth of who and what we do. When I acknowledged that I was responsible for how I behaved, how I responded, how I reacted, then I realized that has to be honest, be truthful, be authentic. And at the same time, if people realize that joy, they see the joy. Evidently, some people think I'm drunk all the time or I'm smiling way too much. I don't really care. That's when you worry about what other people think. What I care about is sharing that joy. Is making you realize that you have that little spark. In fact, that's how my Martie Spark is the series of my book, and that little spark is in each and every one of us. God put it in there for a reason. Now, how we, feed the fire, how we nurture that ember by the goodness in us. When we have that servant spirit, when we give more than what we receive, then you start seeing the spark grow in everyone. You start seeing like that fire of, we can do this, we can work together to make life better. And that's how I'm feeling it. And I might be completely off key. I don't really care. I'm enjoying my senior citizenship in the most massive way. This from a person that saw, go find a motorized wheelchair somewhere so you can climb outside in the mountains, and you're never going to walk. So God wanted me to see the big picture. He wanted me to climb the mountain. He wanted me to be a personal trainer. I became a personal trainer with that 70-pound loss at 62 years old. Who does that? God does that, not me. I don't even know how it happened, but it's an awesome feeling because that's what cheered me on to want to cheer other people on and say, if you could do it, look at what you did when you applied yourself. Look at what you did when you decided to make those baby steps and make them happen. Make them happen. Because that's how I feel my life has been. It's like I was always taking the baby steps, knocking myself against the wall, turning around, you bopping, going right back down the same alley that I refused to see the reality. And then I was like, okay, God has been there the whole time watching, and he's laughing at me because I don't seem to open my eyes. My heart was something else that I think opened up because I was very protective. I didn't want to get hurt. I didn't feel loved, so I wasn't going to give any love because, first of all, I didn't love myself. And second of all, you can't give what you don't have. And third of all, I didn't know what love was. But now I see that God was putting it in there in little tastes along the way, and then he showed me not to forget about loving, being loving and loving. And that's why I am how I am, because I could have gone complete opposite. I could have been a drug addict. I could have been everything that just reduces you down to nothing. And that's why I didn't want to give up. My stubbornness at first became the resilience and the perseverances now.
Such a beautiful story. Oh, wow. It's amazing. Well, if there's anything else you would like to share, somewhere where we can find you, and I'll be tagging your link page, your LinkedIn page, your link tree, and maybe just sharing a little bit about maybe the book that's out right now, or anything that you feel like led to share on how they can find you, ways that we can support you. And any last words for the community?
Well, my creative chaos warrior is the very thing that we've been bombarded and misinformed and facing all this this new knowledge of things that may or may not be true. But the thing is, we have to be true to ourselves. I recommend that book because it does give you useful tips on how to handle all this commotion that will only confuse you and not let you see the clear picture. You need clarity. You need to be grounded in your values, your virtues, your faith, whatever keeps you motivated and growing and going. So that's a bestseller. I'm tickled it happened, but it's a useful book for especially today's age of what's going on. Like there's so many things that are now contradictive that we at one point in time grew up believing that's how it happened. But no, that's why we have to be vigilant. That's why we have to know the truth and see the light and be aware. So that's important. Everything I have is on Amazon, and I'll leave the link in the link tree with all that. But I just want people to realize, oh, and I also give like a 15-minute coach, like a coach call to see if you might be interested in pursuing coaching. Just, to get you started on your own path of how it is to become more resilient and more resistant to the adversity of life. And other than that, I appreciate everyone listening. I thank you, Pearl, for inviting me, and just love just love sharing with people that believe in themselves and believe in the better future.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us. I appreciate you so much. And I just love your energy. Love your energy. It's contagious, it's you can feel it through the screen. And so just thank you for just taking the time to be with us. I believe it's very important that you share your gifts, because if we don't share your gifts with others, then you're doing a disservice. And so just thank
Mhm.
you for stepping into your calling and saying yes. So just thank you for that. You're an inspiration, and we're just so grateful for you to be part of our community. And just thank you. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here with us today.
Thank you. And anyone that wants to reach out and ask a question, I'm game. I'm always listening. I'm always learning. And that's another thing. I just because I've gotten to where I've gotten and all these awards and everything, I'm still learning. And I'm gonna die learning because we don't ever figure it out. The fun part is when you get around the people that help you figure it out together. That's the best part. And that's why community is so important. But thank you.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. The power of community. We are not meant to do this alone. So
No.
thank you very much for those that are tuning in. If you're checking out the replay later, let us know that you've watched and tuned in. And those that are watching along on Facebook, thank you for being here. And those that were with us on Zoom, I appreciate you. All right. Well, God bless you all. Miss Marty, you can stay on just for a second, and then we'll
I will.
we'll say goodbye to our Facebook Nation. All right. God bless. Ciao.